Ricky exclusive YouTube channel with Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. The point here today is going to be you can't change people, and you've got no right to think you can. Modern counselling today doesn't so much as give people direct advice as what it does to help people lead into places where they think they can. G'day mate, how are you? Lead people to the answers that they need to apply to their lives to solve the problems. That's pretty good because it takes away making things too easy. It actually helps a person to think about what they need, how they're going to apply it, and how it's going to help them. They're actually allowing the person to be involved in what they need to do to help themselves. And this is the thing, motivating people to help themselves. Introspection's probably one of the hardest things to try and incorporate into somebody's life now, because not many people want to look too far in to themselves in a way in which, by the Spirit, I think it's more of a spirit thing than a soulish conscious thing, by way of the Spirit, in which they can transform. So you can put all the transformational stuff in front of somebody. You know, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or this, that and all the other, but that doesn't necessarily mean that person's going to change. I've dated women that have been drinkers and dope smokers and that, and they've really appreciated and been fascinated by how my life buzzes by being straight while they're struggling with their addictions. And some of them have wanted to actually get out of their addictions and get free, but I'm yet to see one to do that. I think they get fascinated with the sex as well, because a functioning sober person's much more enjoyable than a person that's psyched up on drugs and all this shit and horror and terrible stuff. And that's just one aspect. A lot of people get a lot of healing out of sex as well. It's not a bad thing when it's used right. What about alcohol and substances? Is there really any need for these things, really, when you think about it? Is there really any desperate necessity to have those additives in your system? I don't think so. Let's look at what happens if you're a straight person and you've got a partner that's not. How does that work? Well, it depends about transparency. I've had partners where okay, whatever they're going to do, it's not going to affect me. But what I've found is they'll tend to hide it. And that's rather strange. I thought that was rather strange, but I think it was more than that. I think it was because it was a family, tribal type thing. I think, and I used to visit their places, they sharing it in a tribal way. I suppose I'm more comfortable to do it as a tribe rather than have the outsider there who didn't partake in those things. I guess there was an element of shame possibly working there in them. or guilt, I don't know, some kind of conflict. There was also family members that didn't want a straight person there. Too transparent, too hard to deal with, too confronting. If you're in a situation where people's behaviour is causing them to have to confront themselves to try and find some kind of a resolve, and they don't want to do that, you'll be removed. You will be removed. And yeah, then you have to ask yourself, am I in a healthy environment? If you come from an environment where people are willing to not just examine themselves but apply the things that they've learned, then that's a healthy environment. But if people are being shown stuff and they're just not applying that, they don't want to grow, they don't want to better themselves, then that's not a good environment. And there is a devil, as you can see in this picture, who wants to harass and break and ruin this mind and the lives of people, and he'll use sex and drugs and alcohol and all these other things, cocaine and all this stuff, all the substances that they've got to destroy. And the thing about it is, it's a pleasurable destruction, at least at first. It all feels great, and then the dopamine fix has to the receptors start to wear a bit, and you need more, and then you need more, and then you need it more often, and you need more, and you just become a vegetable, an empty shell. It's what Satan wants, and he won't be happy until everything's wrecked, bit by bit. Your mind, your sight, your hearing, your understanding, your ability to be cognitive, the way that your self-awareness, the awareness of people. A lot of drug addicts and that lose their relationships because they're not aware of how they're impacting the people around them. They're just not aware. They don't care. Their mind is set on how they feel and the next episode that they can have of their drug. That's how it works. They don't care. Because if they did care, they'd be more considerate. You'll find that everything circulates around the substance. The money, the mood, if there's security that the supply is going to be there, everybody's happy. If things aren't being supplied, you'll see them working their little tribal parent-children fucking tribes. Hey buddy, working together to make sure the substance is there, or whatever they're doing's there, and they get all close and happy with one another if it's all going well. But watch what happens when there's no supply. Watch what happens when one hasn't got money to contribute to the supply. Watch what happens when somebody's taken some of the others, or they're taking from usually there's a supplier in the house. One will get the stuff, the other one will supply the finance. Usually the parents supplies the financial side of it, and they just leech off the parents involved in it. Then you're in a really bad place. That's not going to end up well. Might not look like that at the time, but it's not going to end up well. Sickness and sadness, because a lot of these people have relationships where they need the drug to keep not only themselves in a place that's acceptable, but the person that they're with might want drugs, might need their fix of drugs. And so if it's a male, usually he'll be the supplier. He supplies, and this is how Satan works. There's always a hierarchy. There's always, and it's usually the opposite of what's healthy and good. It's usually the opposite of what's going to work well, or what's going to be right. I noticed this with these people that, I'm not saying they're not caring, they're all and empathetic. Yeah, that's how they justify themselves. A lot of them. A lot of them think if they do good deeds, then that justifies their addictions. Some are more selfish, depends how pedestalised they've been. I've seen some terribly pedestalised people. I remember doing a blind job, fitting blinds, making and fitting blinds, and this little kid had a bell. So I'm in this house and this woman, so working for this woman, middle-aged woman, or young, 30s, late 30s, and I could hear this bell, and then I'd see this woman dart across the room, or and she'd go downstairs, and I was just going about my business, and then all of a sudden she'd come back, and then the bell would ring again, and you'd see her dart off. Well, it was time for me to go down where the bell was, and it was this little kid, nothing wrong with him, pedestalised. I mean, I've seen some strange shit in my day, but this took the cake. This was just, if ever I've seen a kid ruined, it was this kid. He'd ring the bell. If he wanted something, he'd ring the bell. And I'm telling you, the bell never stopped, and she never stopped running. Now, I've seen this with adult children who live with their parents. They don't have a bell, but they make the parent run, and then these women run after these disabled, fully functioning but disabled adult men. They run after them, enabling their ego, enabling them to be pedestalised and ruined and spoiled. You can work that out, right? So if you come into a family that's completely and utterly out of order, and you're in order, guess where you're going to end up? Out. You're mismatched. Should be an immediate, you should know straight away, without any question, what's going on. You should know what's going to happen. I knew. When you're straight, when you're functioning at your full potential, and you've done that all your life, it's going to take a toll. It's really going to take a toll on people. How you going, buddy? Good, mate. Because their conscience is going to wear at them. Their conscience is going to try them out, and you'll be alienated. So this woman made it up. I couldn't go to her place. She'd come to my place, but that was only going to work for so long. And then she started not to bring her habit to my place, but come there under the influence of. And I told her not to. This is how they work. Everything comes back to the addiction. Not some things, not a few things, not here or there. Everything will come back. And that's exactly how Satan wants it. That's why I've got that picture there. That woman is an example of everything comes back to the addiction, to the habit, to the default. And it will happen to the exclusion of the relationship. That's why addicts and that end up with nothing except themselves and their medications and their drugs and their hangers on. I've seen it over and over again. Turn to God. That's all I can say. You need it, because the devil's just working on people over time, him and his cohorts. Seek out the Lord while he may be found. Out.